that is going to be important is that is closing this out, in a timely fashion. It's probably going to require a little bit of a special meeting. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. But we're calling the Strategic Plan 2021. And just as a reminder, I want to remind everyone, this is a process that we've been having, for a little bit. One of the first meetings that we undertook here was in the February timeframe last year. We requested permission from you all to solicit proposals for a strategic planning consultant. You all approved that and approved our consultant, which was Jacobson Daniels Associates in May. We got an agreement signed with JDA in July, and we got started in earnest, working on the strategic plan also in July. So the folks at JDA came back and they delivered the original draft to us in early December of 2015. We've massaged that a number of different times since, and what you have before you is pretty much the latest updated version of that plan. I should also mention that in terms of the strategic plan and the details of it, that is an ongoing process. And as we work through different initiatives and presented with different challenges, there will be additions to the plan. We may come up against something that we find out we simply cannot do, and there will be deletions from the plan. At the end of the day, though, what we plan to do in terms of reporting is come to you all on a quarterly basis and talk about how well we are doing with regard to achieving the goals that are outlined there. And so I want to start first by talking about our mission, vision, and values. And so our mission is to connect Jackson to the world and the world to Jackson. We want to be the airports of choice. So we just had Liston stand up and talk a little bit about the capture rate for this airport. While that number is a good number, we'd like to see it be a lot higher. Probably something that's closer to the 100% mark and close to the 91% mark. And when we say airports of choice, we're also talking about Hawkins Field there. So we want to be the airports of choice. In terms of value, we want to provide a best-in-class customer service, continuous improvement. So we want to be setting high goals and measuring performance and advancing as we go along. Communication is important to us. We want to encourage productive dialogue and generate the information. I believe that communication is the key to any very successful organization, and part and parcel with that is collaboration. So we want to work together to build the strength of the team. It's not just the team, though. We want to collaborate with our business partners and stakeholders as well and ensure that we've got something great going on here. Had an interesting meeting yesterday with TSA, and that is one of the places where I've seen a great deal of collaboration improve our operation since I've been here. And so we also want to exhibit we want to talk about commitment, and that is exhibiting a sense of ownership and pride and authority. That starts with me, but it goes all the way down to the folks that are on the front line for us. You might also hear the term thrown around, engagement. We want engaged staff members, working here at the airport, and those are our mission, vision, and values. So we'll talk a little bit about the purpose and need. I showed up on the scene in January last year, and I am certain that the organization was pointed in a direction. You all hired me to achieve some of the goals that you want us to achieve, and so I think that really requires that we all be on the same page. In essence, being on the same plane, headed down the same runway at the same time, and so that is a need, for the strategic plan. In terms of planning process and methodology, we actually broke this down into two phases. And the first phase was to get a picture an idea, where things, stood with regard to the organization. So, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities and what are our threats? And the next phase was to figure out, what is sort of the end goal? What is the end state? What do we want to look like, in 5 years? And then develop goals and plans to get us to that future state. In order to do so, in terms of methodology, we had a lot of input from stakeholders. So our consultant, Jacobs and Daniels, met with each of you. They interviewed you, but they also interviewed a great number of other folks. So we had interviews and interaction with the mayors of the surrounding cities. Brandon Pearl, Flowood. The mayor of Jackson was interviewed. Spent some time with him. We met with our airline business partners to talk with them, the folks that are local and on the ground. They spent time, talking with the FAA. They spent time talking with the folks at Mississippi Department of Transportation, as well as tenants and other business partners that we have. So the Chambers of Commerce were also interviewed. It's a pretty long list. We'll see those in your book. So in terms of the SWOT analysis, the things that we looked at in terms of our strength, number one, our location. In terms of location, we are in a location where we have plenty of land, ripe for development. While we get some competition from Memphis and from New Orleans, we are in the center of the state of Mississippi, and so from that standpoint, we're in a good place. We have all three network carriers working with us, and all of them appear to be doing well, and that is a strength for us. We'll also hear a little bit later on that might be a little bit of a weakness, but the fact that we have all three is a strength. In terms of customer service, in terms of the folks that work here day in and day out, our frontline customers, our business partners, our team has a great working relationship with those folks, and they generally rate us as being very, very responsive to their needs, and us providing service to them. We also have a great relationship with the military. So the Air National Guard here at JAN and the Army National Guard at Hawkins are strengths for us. Those relationships are a strength. And then our work environment. In terms of the work environment, I think that our team, our internal team, views the management team here now as one that is listening to employees and working to meet their needs, and that is a strength. One of the big strengths is parking. Our airport has 100% of the market with regard to parking. A number of airports have off-airport competition, and so there are a number of off-airport parking operations around many airports, and we don't have that competition here, so that is a real strength for us. In terms of weaknesses, my goodness, access from Interstate 20 has been identified as a weakness for us. You got to go through the roundabout, and people really are upset and complain about the roundabout, but they also complain about signage and wayfinding from Interstate 20. Our concessions are viewed as being very poor, and we need to improve the offerings and the number of locations where our concessions are. We have the majority of our concessions in terms of food and beverage on the pre-security side of screening, and most people these days are looking to get beyond screening to the gate area before they want to stop and get something, and that is cited as something that we need to really work on.
But we have addressed that in some way already.
We have addressed it
in some way.
In some way,
right.
and again, as part of our ongoing plans, and we continue to work with our consultant, to get that out. Okay. So, human resources. While we have made some strides in that area at the time that we did the SWOT analysis, this was shown as a weakness. We look at needing to make some improvements in terms of performance reviews and working with staff members to give them opportunities for development. And then when people come to the airport, they come to the airport. They're dealing with different folks around here. If they have a problem with an entity, they have a problem with one of the airlines. If they have a problem with a food concessionaire, they paint us all with the same brush. And so sometimes their issues transcend and come over to us. So we need to work with them as far as that's concerned. So in terms of opportunities, we again have all this developable land that is around, and that translates into future revenue generation for us. And we're taking a good hard look at that. The medical corridor and cargo are also future opportunities for us. In terms of threats, we have aging infrastructure. And some of that stuff is going to be beyond repair in the not too distant future, so we're going to need to invest in significant dollars into it to bring it back. I mentioned before that location, while it is a strength of ours, it is also a threat. And you heard Mr. Sage again talk a little while ago about the leakage that we have to both Memphis and to New Orleans, and so those are our competitors. And then, while we have all three of the airlines here. Airline consolidation continues to be a threat to us. When you have an oligopoly, which is essentially what we have here, those airlines are in a position then to basically input the rates that they want to input in order to get their profit. And so there is a little bit of a lack of competition because we don't have folks beyond those three. So in conclusion, we have tremendous potential. Land development options that we spoke of. We have an opportunity to improve tenant services. We have enhanced customer service experience and employee engagement. One common thing, for us is the need to really improve air service and lower fares, from JAN. And our stakeholders view both airports, JAN and Hartsfield, as being disconnected, from the city of Jackson. That was the thing that kind of came through. I think it came word that loud and clear from commissioners. I think we also heard that loud and clear, from folks at the city. Perhaps some of the changes. We have identified 5 priority projects, and I heard earlier, late 2015, we had an opportunity to sit down with commissioners and talk a little bit about these. And so the first of these, is an airport lodging and commercial development. And so what that basically translates to is we're looking at building the hotel. We're working with an entity to build a hotel on the airport. We are really wanting to and will improve the terminal and our concessions program. And so we have identified both short-term and long-term goals in order to achieve those improvements. We were headed down a path where we were looking at rebuilding the quick turnaround facility for rental car firms. And we've identified a need through this process to develop a consolidated rental car firm, or rental car facility, which is going to be out in front of the terminal building. And then a number of improvements, over at Hawkins Field. So You've heard us talk a little bit over time about the needing to work to change the entrance to the airport, the need to refurbish the old terminal, put it back into operation. We're going to be looking at making some additional aircraft storage facilities available there, as well as looking at the FBO operation there. And last but not least, probably our biggest opportunity for additional revenue generation is the East Metro Corridor Parkway, and getting that land situated and marketed for development. The next slide then begins to jump into those goals that we talked about. So again, we want to be the employer of choice. We want this to be as a place that people really want to work. So when people hear about the Jackson Municipal Airport Authority and folks are looking for a job, or if they're not looking for a job, they hear about our organization, this is the place where they want to come to work because we are it. We are it, from the standpoint of helping people develop. We're it from the position of being competitive. We're it, from the position of living our values, and people, really know what's expected of them, and they're rewarded, for doing the things that's necessary. Well, we got a lot of big plans. We heard when we talk about, those 5 big projects that we want to do. I think it's really important that as we go along, that we position ourselves in such a way that we are able to take care of those projects and ongoing operations, but we do that in such a manner that we don't hamstring future generations. So, you can do, so much at such a speed that you get yourself, in a real bind. And our goal is to make sure that we are good from that standpoint. And so we want to make sure that we maintain a very stable financial position, make sure that we're able to, in the future, gain access to capital. We want to develop and implement a strategic funding plan for the capital asset improvement and management, and we want to retain our current businesses and attract new business opportunities by maintaining a competitive cost structure. Our next area of emphasis is on customer service. So what we put into it, our community gets out of it. We're going to basically be looking to develop a communication structure that assesses, measures, and allow us to respond to customers' requests and recommendations. We have really jumped into a situation where we have developed a standard for exceptional customer service experience here. And we're not just talking about JMAA employees, we're talking about all employees for the airport. And so it doesn't do a lot of good, as I mentioned before, that we all kind of paint with the same brush when there's a customer service issue. And we want to make sure that all of our business partners are on the same page with us. We want to promote an internal customer service culture within the authority itself. Again, this is one of those places, where the words, collaboration, kind of cross back and forth. And so teamwork is another way, of talking about this. We want to develop, a great culture of teamwork here, where people are, going out of their way without being asked, to help out their teammates. And again, we want to identify and provide services to the community. The next area, again, a focus is on air service. And we're calling this Let's Go National. You've heard quite a bit this morning about, the work that we're doing in there, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it in addition. But we want to build air carrier relations with, in order to retain the existing service that we have first and foremost. There's an old saying that when you go after the new money, don't forget about the old money, right? So we want to retain the old money that we have when we go out and get some new money. So we're going to build relationships with existing carriers. We're going to implement air service development plan for new air service, and we want to leverage the state of Mississippi government travel. here, in order to do that. And so the state of Mississippi itself, travels a ton. We want to make sure that we're working with them in order to ensure that all that stays here, that we do more. And then again, we want to diversify and expand the Hawkinsville businesses that we have there. Our next area of focus has to do with infrastructure. And the way we're kind of counting this is it looks new and it runs well. So we want to build and maintain facilities and equipment that are, first and foremost, things that are aesthetically pleasing. And they have to be comfortable, for the public. We, have, the normal airport seating around, for instance. And, that's wonderful, that's great, provides, plenty of it, but there are new concepts around that allow for much more comfortable seating options. And so we're going to be looking at stuff like that. We will also talk about and projects we're looking at making some changes to the terminal. And it's an opportunity there to make sure that our facilities are facilities that are in appearance newer, state-of-the-art, and they look wonderful. We want to build and maintain facilities and equipment that are compliant with local, state, and federal regulations. And it kind of goes without saying, we need to meet the regulations that are out there. And we want to use a robust capital improvement system to address our priority schedules and funding. One that is really important to me is as we go about developing new projects or buying new equipment, is that we consider the total cost of ownership of those things. And that's from acquiring it in the beginning until we decide to dispose of it. So what are all the costs associated with those items, and we make some comparisons before we decide to jump into a purchase or to jump into a construction phase. All of this needs to improve the productivity of our team, and also needs to improve the customer service experience for those that are utilizing our facilities. And I just saw a typo. You can look at these things 1,000 times, and then all of a sudden it just jumps out there and says, so we're going to buy some fur for folks. We'll provide facilities for our customers, again, that are safe, secure, and efficient. And we want to establish standards, for the for the maximum life cycle of our assets. And last but not least, certainly not least, we have opportunities. And so we want to engage and support BDEs and small businesses. And so we're going to create a robust outreach program, provide the community with information on opportunities to work with and for the authority. We're going to provide, be out participating with the community in government-based education and mentoring programs. And we want to serve as a technical resource for small minority, women-owned, and disadvantaged business enterprises. We've got a good leg up on that already with the folks in Jack's group. So, talk a little bit about next steps. We distributed the draft strategic plan to commissioners today. Again, we'll be looking to receive comments from commissioners on the 22nd. Beginning at February 23rd, we would look then to incorporate those comments into what will become a final plan. And I would beg your indulgence, commissioners, in considering a special meeting on the 29th to approve it. What that'll do is allow us to, one, begin communicating our strategic plan right away to our staff, and we can finalize this and begin to get it out to our stakeholders. And then on March 7th, we want to have hold a pretty big event, to roll this out to the community at large with a press release and perhaps a press conference to talk a little bit about it. In terms of getting comments back to us, I would ask that you all send your suggestions to Chad Parker. And you have Mr. Parker's email address in your packet. It's also on the screen there. So it's cparker@jmaa.com. Be happy to answer any questions for you at this point.
Mr. Newman, before we go there, team members you already have, your backup kind of to go with what you've already shared. So I'm looking forward to our kind of marrying these two pieces and then see what else we may have.
Right.
The one thing that jumped out at me that I'd just like to mention is like go national. I'm thinking, let's go international.
Right.
Since the name of the airport already says international.
You know, there was actually quite a bit of debate about that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, so you gotta walk before you can run sometimes, right? And so I think, you know, our initial focus is 5-year period is going to be on getting people to more of the domestic locations than they can get to today. Longer term, the next go around, you know, perhaps maybe when in the next iteration of this, we can be talking about going international, but we want to walk before we run in this case.
Any other pressing questions anyone has right now for Mr. Newman? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Newman. Thank you,
Thank
staff.
you.